Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome. You guys gather in, call your girlfriends, get them on. Oh my goodness. Share the app, get them into this show. When I tell you it's going to be a great show, it's going to be a great show. This is Sabrina, Caterina, Crisette, and Gloria, the force of friendship. We got issues. We have a family therapist with us today. We're going to be talking about racial trauma, what it does to your
OMG, it's going down. It is going down. It's going down. I was learning a new line dance earlier today. It was going down at the house. This is We Got Issues and the force of friendship. I am your host today, Caterina Harris Earl, and I'm coming to you from beautiful Northern California. I'm looking at trees of every color as I look out the window. They're just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And I am excited to be here today with Crisette Ellis in Detroit, Michigan, with Gloria Mayfield Banks in Ellicott City, Maryland, with Sabrina Goodwin Monday in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. It is gorgeous. And boy, do we have a topic. This week has been just such a rich week. We've had some amazing guests all week, and today will not disappoint. I want to say that this is a topic that probably comes up all across the dining room tables in most African-American homes, but we're going to go deeper today, probably deeper, put some science behind it. It's going to be amazing. But right before I bring up our amazing guests, we're going to meet the girlfriends. We always start the show out when you're listening to 9:10 a.m., the super station, WFDF, coming to you out of Detroit and broadcasting across the nation. We always start out with what's hot in our life, because we got issues, you got issues, we all got issues, okay? So we talk about what's hot in our life and what's hot on the in the news. And today, y'all would not believe what's hot in my life is we are running from coyotes. When I told you it is a drought, and they are building houses. These houses around here are selling for millions of dollars. Anthony looked at me and said, "Do you want to sell your house? You want to sell your house?" And I was like, where we going to live? Where we going to live? But because they're building so much, the coyotes, I mean, right down there, they say, grab your little dogs because they are trailing and coming in people's backyards. And my mom was like, well, that coyote come in through the doggy door. She's shutting everything down. So I was like, OMG, can you believe that? Coyotes. No. And, Anthony loves to go for walks. So, and then the other thing, y'all, the NFL. I mean, did you guys see that? The NFL race norming, NFL pledges to stop race norming. I mean, it's just crazy. We're going to talk a little bit about that before we get into the show. The NFL on Wednesday pledged to halt the use of race norming, which assumed Black players started out with lower cognitive function in the $1 billion settlement for brain injury claims. Y'all remember all those brain injury claims? Well, a lot of Black players did not get the same money that their counterparts got because they assumed that the Black players had a lower cognitive function.
Wow.
Don't even get me started. Don't even. And this only comes up now because of the lawsuits that are being done by Black players. And then the white attorney, he was very apologetic, but they were asking the question, but do we want you to represent us again? So it's just very interesting. So Crisette, look at you. You are looking fly and fabulous all the time, all the time, all the time. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. I'm channeling my Jada Pinkett Smith. Okay, the head wrap. You know how Jada does it, right? But it's a beautiful day here in the D. Just had a great day. Haven't done, did some reading today, some quiet time, kind of being a little introspective on today. And I just think that's so important. It's so much going on. You absolutely need to find some time to just think, some time to clear your mind, just time to, meditate, I guess is the best word. So that's kind of, where I am on today. But I will tell you that, Caterina, when you talked about this topic, I was so excited because I can't wait to hear from our guest today, because I absolutely have questions that I want to ask her about this racial trauma. And, it's probably deeper than we even know. So I'm just excited to lean in today to hear what she has to say about that topic. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it to Gloria Mayfield Banks. How you doing, Gloria? Looking beautiful.
So good, y'all. Thank you. I'm excited about this show. I'm excited. Oh, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I swear I'm going to get it. I'm excited to be here with y'all today. I'm excited to be in the Sunshine, Florida state. I'm excited about this topic. And I'm excited to learn. For me, I'm excited to learn. Is it scratchy? I'm excited to learn because that is what I want to do. So I'm excited. I'm going to pass it over to Sabrina and see if I can fix my audio. Love y'all.
Excellent. Hey, girlfriends, how are you? Force of friendship. We got issues. I'm excited to see each and every one of you. You were all in our places with sunshiny faces, looking amazing. We got a lot of rain in the Carolinas, but boy, did we need it. And Katrina, you talking about coyotes? We have the same issue in North Carolina. In my neighborhood news notes, we have a thread, and somebody just said yesterday, a coyote was spotted. Get the little dogs in. Be careful. So right now, it's coyotes and snakes. Copperheads. Copperheads are plentiful in our neighborhood. We live where a lot of woods are, so we are watching as we take our dogs out. And I'm telling you, I'm not walking. We used to take night walks. Okay. I'm not walking at night right now. No.
What is your name?
I am making sure that it is well lit.
Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
I am very interested in the topic today, Katrina. It's necessary. It's needed. Mental health is real. Our brain power is so serious. And the more we can learn, the more we can work in a more positive, powerful way when we understand better what triggers do to our brain function. So we are throwing it back to you, Caterina Harris Earl.
Yes, we're going to get deep in this topic. I'm going to bring up our guest. And right before I bring her up, I just want to set it up today. This happened because my very first event that we had in the park, I was so honored that our guest came with a play sister of hers. And I was like, I want you to be on the show. Y'all, our ancestors' trauma lives on in us. And thanks to the conversation that I had with our guest yesterday, I began to really dig deep into what Dr. Joy DeGroy says. I know she'll correct me in how to say it properly. She's a clinical psychologist with a doctoral in social work research and an author of the post-traumatic slave syndrome, which we're going to talk about. And she's going to talk about the effects of that post-traumatic slave syndrome, the fact that you can even see traces of this in our DNA over 14 generations. Y'all, for the Black community, the impact of centuries of unaddressed trauma still manifests. And while part of that is certainly due to ongoing social injustice, some of the impact might well also be inherited. So basically, being Black in America means living with chronic post-traumatic stress disorder caused not only by one's lived experiences, but by the experiences of our ancestors, even affecting our immune system. Y'all, hurt people hurt people. We've heard that. And if they do not hurt people, they hurt themselves. Violent people are not born, they are bred. And why? We live in this violent bully society and we see it show up. It's not just current, it's been happening to us for centuries. So I'm going to bring our guest to the stage, Geraldine Wilson, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a specialty and racial trauma. And I just want to say, Geraldine, I love your story. It's a victory story and about reinventing yourself. Such a great example of taking an issue and making it your platform. You currently work as a social-based clinician and also have private practice, but this is your third career. I just love that you returned to school to get your master's at 51 years old, a former computer programmer in Silicon Valley. So my tech self love that. But I just love how you said, Geraldine, you reinvented yourself. You went to work with in human resources with engineers, and then you became a therapist. You went from programming computers to programming minds. Wow. So welcome to the show, Geraldine Wilson. Woo, woo,
Yeah.
woo.
Hi.
Yes. We love it. Welcome to our tribe. We love the heavy hitters. We love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just say
Thank you
hi
for
and
having
just
me.
pick up. I'm so glad you're here. Before we get into the topic, just tell us a little bit about, pick up where I left off on how you got into therapy and then specializing in dealing with racial trauma.
Okay. Can you hear me? Everybody can hear me fine?
Yes.
Okay, great. Basically, my life story started as a child. I experienced trauma. So I'm going to talk about later children that experience various things that go on in their life. They'll end up carrying it throughout your adulthood, and you'll end up acting out, and it'll end up manifesting into certain behaviors if you're not aware of it. So I guess as a child, I was already being prepped for this type of field. I was bullied. I stuttered bad as a child. I was painfully shy. I only spoke at home and didn't speak at school. So that's a diagnosis for that. It's selective mutism, and I didn't know about that until I went back to school and found out. Also, so by growing up, and I had several things that went on in my life, I ended up being a computer programmer for 25 years. And working in an all-white departments because there were not many Black people, let alone Black women, in that field at all. So I always experienced microaggressions, and I'll talk about that later. They're well-intentioned, but sometimes they have lasting effects because they're like digs into who you are as a person of color. I dropped out of school when I was 19 and went back at 42 to get my bachelor's degree in information systems. And so I did that. The job I was currently at, it was called Long's Drugstore. I was a team leader, and I was responsible for getting orders to over 400 Long stores. Long's is currently now CVS. So as a Black woman leading up that team, I ended up with a supervisor who was white, who denigrated me and tried to make me feel less than. I didn't get laid off. I ended up leaving that job because I was under so much duress. Now I realize that was racial trauma that was occurring to me. Later on, about 10 years later, I went through another personal crisis, and I says, I'm gonna go back and get my master's degree in counseling psychology because I keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And I wanna find out what's going on with me that is manifesting and me picking the wrong people to be in my life, which have negative influences, and I had to figure that out. So that was an expensive form of therapy for me. So I have a huge student loan bill, which is another reason why people don't go into this field because it's
right. That's right.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, and internships and low pay. We need more Black therapists. We need more Black psychologists, but it's really stressful trying to live off an internship salary while trying to get your license and doing the 3,000 hours to do that. Here I am as a therapist. I work with children specifically in schools. I'm a school-based clinician, and I love it because now I can show children of color, look what you can become. You know, where you are now is not the end story, and it's not over. So
wow.
I just love it, and I love speaking. Oh, go ahead.
It's okay. I'm in awe of the victory story, and I love how we've done shows about what you're calling, how to know what your calling is, and I love how you took your issue and turned it into your purpose, and you use it to support, to make that curve not be so long and for so many others. I want to just remind our listening audience, you can call into the show and have an opportunity to speak directly to our therapist, Geraldine, who's on today. She said we can even call her Jerry, and the number is 313-778-7600. So we have about 5 minutes before we go to the break. I want to bring the girlfriends in, but can you just give us a little bit of a definition of what is racial trauma, and what exactly is that when we talk about it? How is that different from trauma in general?
Okay. Well, trauma in general, your body reacts in a certain way. Your amygdala takes over. You're going to go into fight mode, flight mode, or freeze mode. And so with race trauma or with post-traumatic slave syndrome, this is a vicarious trauma that is prolonged. We live it every single day. It doesn't end. Like one incident, like it's a shooting or a mass shooting, and then it's over. With racial trauma, it's every single day. We cannot change the color of our skin. And this is who we are when we show up. And sometimes when we show up in our authentic selves, people don't like it. And so we will be attacked. We will listen to attacks. Just watching somebody being murdered, like the George Floyd case, the video, watching it over and over and over and over, that is being vicariously traumatized, because you're reliving it every single minute and it's not stopping. And in addition to what's going on in your personal life as well, if you're on your workplace, things that's going on in the world, if someone says something to you, you're also getting little darts, thrown at you. And it's trauma that won't end.
Wow.
And it's a legacy. And it's 400 years of that. 400 years that's passed down.
Right.
Right. Wow. That's just, I did what you, after our conversation yesterday, and you talked about how important it is to monitor what you watch before you go to sleep, because of how last night, and I went to bed so much more conscious. Right before we go to break, Sabrina, this is just a natural segue. We've been talking about the Tulsa Race Massacre all week, and just what can you add to the conversation, or what question might you have about how you see this showing up all these years later?
Wow. Thank you, Dean, for being here. We really appreciate your expertise, your understanding. And, that just hit me like a ton of bricks when you said that we can never get away from it because of the color of our skin. Racial trauma is what we live every day. And so I can't wait when we come back after break, so you could tell us, because you know what? The skin that we're in is who we are. It's not going anywhere. So how do we deal with this every day? I am so glad that you're here, because many of us have felt it for a long time, but we didn't know how to identify what we're feeling and what we've experienced. So when we come back from break, I cannot wait for you to break down how you identify it and how you deal with it all. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, this is going to be so good. And we're going to talk about what is post-traumatic slave syndrome. We're going to talk about the epigenetics and the actual DNA, the way that you said that it's been studied, but interestingly, they haven't studied African Americans. They've studied the Holocaust survivors. So OMG, the way that shows up, we have about just a couple moments before we go to break. And so actually, I think it is time to go to break. I was trying to come right back into what is post-traumatic slave syndrome. So you're listening to We Got Issues. This is an excellent time to call in 313-778-76.
All right. Oh my goodness, you guys. Okay, well, here we are, you guys, with a clinician. She's a family therapist, and she's going to talk to us about racial trauma. I have never heard of racial trauma before. I think we've all, at some point, felt it in our life. We experienced something, but we did not know how to identify it or what to call it. And so she's going to walk us through what it is, how to deal with it. I also learned that racial trauma, your body reacts, you fight, flight, or freeze. How many of you have been through something and absolutely you just fought it, you ran from it, or you were frozen? And so I think it's just such a good conversation. Education, information, whenever we can get some understanding, it's always a good thing. And so we're grateful for our guest today. And so you think about times, you guys, in your life. I mean, she said she became a therapist because she had been at these corporate jobs and she wasn't feeling good. She felt some things at those jobs. She left those jobs. She had no, so that was flight. She took flight. She said she wasn't going to stay in that environment. How many of you have been in the workplace and somebody said something to you, somebody did something to you, and you didn't know what to do because you couldn't go to human resources because they didn't understand your plight? And so you took a flight. How many of you tried to fight and you weren't heard? How many of you had a situation and you didn't know who to talk to or what to say? Well, this thing is real. It is real, and we are here to work through the issues. I mean, you guys, that's why you tune in every day, 6 to 7, Monday through Friday. You don't know what we're going to talk about, but you better believe it's positive, it's powerful, and not Pollyannish. We are going to deal with the real. And so thank you for being here today. Tag somebody. If you know somebody's going through something, been through something, trying to get an understanding, tell them to tap into the show today. This is going to be good. Call into the show, you guys. We want to hear from you. Call in 313-778-7600.
All right. You are listening to The Force of Friendship on We Got Issues, and we are back with a very, very important topic today. We are talking about racial trauma, how to cope, how to deal, and how to break the cycle. And we are here with our special guest, Geraldine Wilson, who's a licensed marriage and family therapist from the Bay Area in California. And we're just going to dive into it. Can you describe, Geraldine, what exactly is post-traumatic slave syndrome? Folks like to say slavery was a long time ago, get over it. And then you talk to me about this. Can you tell me what it is? And
yes. Okay. First of all, this is it's called the DSM-5. And basically, I'm going to read what post-traumatic stress disorder is. And you let me know if this matches up what could be possibly going on with African Americans today. So the first criteria, exposure to actual or threatened death, serious injury, or sexual violence, either directly experiencing it, witnessing it, or learning about it from a close family member. Or you have persistence avoidance of stimuli. So just memory, somebody talking about a thought or something that happened. If you have a negative alteration in your mood, like depression, like I am bad, nobody can be trusted. Or if you have irritable behavior, you have some self-destructive behavior, hypervigilance, exaggerated startle reflex, problems with concentration, or sleep disturbances. So when you look at all that and you match it up what happened to us in slavery, this is a long-lasting PTSD. We have experienced horrific rapes, sexual assaults. Children have been snatched from their mothers. Families have been separated. We have been whipped, brutalized, mutilated. Even what happened with the Black doctor when he experimented on Black women with the bodies without anesthesia. That is trauma that is incomprehensible. I cannot imagine going to the doctor and not having some type of anesthesia while being having a procedure done. Slave syndrome, and people do say it's a long time ago, we need to get over it. And actually, one of my clients told me her teacher told her that. It was a long time ago, get over it. And I had to put on a teacher training at that school to educate the staff on why these children are behaving in the way they are. And you need to understand what the legacy of slavery impacts upon people. So they did studies on the Jewish Holocaust survivors, and they found there is certain thing that goes on with the DNA. The study is called epigenetics. So it's an overlay on top of the DNA. But also you could look at 9/11, the Vietnam vets, children of Vietnam vets, the Aborigine people, the Hurricane Katrina, all these things that we look at that were very horrific. We see that the things are in the lineage when it gets passed down. We call that intergenerational trauma, or IGT, that things are going on and we weren't there to witness it. But why in our bodies do we feel certain ways, or certain things just come up in our minds or head? And it's just mind-boggling. It's like, and trauma doesn't get just absorbed in the mind. It gets absorbed all through our body because of the amygdala and it being hooked to our automatic nervous system. And our nervous system is attached to all our organs. That means your stomach, your intestines, your pancreas, your uterus, your liver. So you can imagine being nervous or stressed out and your stomach is hurting. It makes sense. Right. Or you have a headache because you don't want to go to school that day because you're worried about being bullied or jumped on. Your body is telling you that something is going on, and sometimes we just need to listen to our bodies. And you could see through even the COVID-19, it was mostly African Americans were catching COVID, but it was more deadlier for us. Mm-hmm. That's because of the trauma in our bodies, and we have poor health outcomes. So we're not able to fight off such diseases as well as anybody else. So diabetes, hypertension, cancers, heart attacks, we're more prone to things like that because of the trauma in our bodies. And we need to learn how to take better care of our bodies so we can at least give it a fighting chance to fight against the trauma in our bodies. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Chris.
Caterina, I have a quick question. So, Geraldine, thanks again for being here. This is such a great conversation. My question is, what you're talking about, how all of this trauma is passed down in our DNA. Is it similar to, a lot of times you'll hear doctors or, our parents say when you're pregnant, stay calm, don't get stressed out, because you can pass that on to the baby. So passing things down, it really, you think, how can that be passed down through our DNA? And then my other question is, what do you call it when, and I'm sure this has happened in a large majority of African-American homes, where when something happens in the news and you hear something tragic, or you hear of a shooting, or you hear somebody did something terrible, the first thing you think is, I hope they weren't Black. I hope they weren't Black. It's like we take on anything that a person of color, a Black person does, we take it on because we kind of feel like if they're doing something, then it's a reflection on us. And I don't think other cultures, especially Caucasian cultures, they don't take on what other Caucasians do. I'm sure, with George Floyd, with Derek Chauvin, I don't know how many white people took on the guilt of what he did to George Floyd. Whereas I think sometimes we look and say, oh God, please don't let them be Black. What do you call that?
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's because of the shame involved to it. And sometimes we try to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and say, we're going to be a role model and we're going to show the world that everybody isn't who we see on the media. Because, you know, when the news comes on, they go find the witness they go find is so, it's not somebody we would want shown on TV. We want somebody articulate, that, you know, is speaking like proper and then can intellectualize. We just want to be seen as worthy. And so the media, it portrays us in negative lights, and that further just makes us, and sometimes we have internalized racism when we start believing what they put out there too. It's like if we start believing we're all bad, or we don't do things right, we don't go to school, and we're always getting trouble and getting arrested and stuff. When you start believing that and internalizing that, not knowing there is systemic oppression, there are things going on in the world that's beyond our control. So it's not that they are bad or acting out, it's things that the police are more targeting us, we're more profiled, the teachers don't treat the children the same way as a white child. They're getting more privilege. We're not getting what we should get. It is more where we have to be twice as smart. You know how you have to go to your job and be twice as good.
Right.
You can't be mediocre. You have to rock it. And so when we carry that type of burden where we have to be everything for our whole race, that's heavy too. That's heaviness.
Geraldine, could you go back definitely to her previous question about pregnancy, because our conversation about that and how that tied into the post-traumatic slave syndrome, that was just so fascinating. Not fascinating. It was deep.
Right. It's interesting. It's really deep. Okay. So Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Bruce Perry paired up, and they have a book out right now. It's called What Happened to You, Not What's Wrong with You. Or the title, something like that. But Dr. Bruce Perry, we actually do studies with his model. It's called Neurocentral Model of Therapeutics. And what we do is we study the uterine insults. So I'll just read to you something about it. So the presence of domestic violence during pregnancy is likely to increase and alter intrauterine environment through multiple pathways, including altering the maternal heart rate and the maternal regulation of the stress response system, thereby influencing the intrauterine neurohormonal milieu. Dr. Bruce Perry. Basically what it's saying, when a woman is carrying a baby, it's soup. The baby is cooking in a soup. The more stress she's under, the cortisol is going to be released into her bloodstream, and it's going to go inside the baby, and it's going to interfere with how the brain is organized.
Wow.
So it's called a toxic soup. That's why we have to make sure whoever is pregnant, you not only are eating healthy fruits and vegetables, but you have to be aware of who you're around. If you're in a relationship where it's constantly fighting, bickering, and punching and fight, and not, just alcohol and drugs, but just the whole status of being stressed will affect your baby's brain development. And so what I'm seeing now in schools right now, when I go back and do a historical assessment of what happened when the mom was pregnant, I'm finding out the mom was in an abusive relationship. And so that affects how these kids regulate themselves in the classroom. They're not able to sit still. So a lot of times African Americans get labeled as ADHD when it's actually trauma. It's trauma, and it's been there since in utero.
Right, but Geraldine, so medication.
I don't say that depressing, but the work that we're doing is it's not over. The brain is elastic. We call it neuroplasticity. So the counseling and the therapy we do, we could change the way the brain is wired and we could rewire it.
But Geraldine, the doctors are so quick to put our children on that medicine. What do you think about that? Aren't there some other ways to rewire the brain instead of being so quick to putting our young people on the medication? What do you think about that?
It's true. It's like sometimes you don't need to go straight to medication. What we need to do is learn to eat from the ground again. Eat natural vegetables, fruit, stay away from the hormones in cow's milk. It's different things that God put in plants and fruits and vegetables that we could help heal our bodies. So when we were slaves and we were fed intestines and we make chitlins out of it and cheese and all that stuff with the high sodium and salt, it keeps us sick because our body wasn't meant to ingest those types of things. And I forgot the other part of your question.
I don't know what else I said, but I know you talked about the environment. When those environments are toxic and unhealthy for women who are carrying these babies, sometimes they don't know how to get out. They don't know, especially in our community, they don't know a way out. And I think family members, we have to. So what do you prescribe for family members that we know are in a toxic relationship? How do we counsel when they don't want to hear what we have to say? What do you suggest?
Yeah, so you're talking about domestic violence where sometimes she can't leave. It's if she's been narcissism is when you kind of brainwash somebody and believing like they can't leave and they're the only one that's going to love you. You can't make it on your own. You're single. You don't have the education to hold yourself up. And so it takes, I do work with domestic violence victims as well as I'm being a survivor of that as well. It takes an average of 7 times for a woman to actually leave a situation. She'll leave and go back, leave and go back.
Wow,
7. It's like relapse with drugs. You'll stop and then you may relapse and then you'll stop again. But one day you're going to get it and you're not going back. But it just takes supportive people around them to say, I'm not giving up on you. But it's so scary because during that time, that's when a woman's life is really in danger. When they leave. We have to have like more shelters, more safe houses where they could go hide out at to be safe.
When you were talking about those relationships and Dr. Bruce Perry, when I was reading about what he said that relationships are key to a person's ability to process a bad experience and move on. How many people are loving, surrounding, as you said yesterday, holding the space for them to have a breakthrough. So I love when you said it can take as much as 7 times so that we don't get weary in well-doing when you are trying to support a family member or a loved one or a friend through that process. I still want you to go back to that pregnancy piece, what you told me about what took place during slavery and the mother not wanting her, the stronger the baby was, the more likely the baby would be separated from her. And so how she had to denigrate. I mean, just talk about that and how that, because we see that showing up in unfortunate ways in our community today.
Well, Dr. Joy DeGruy, she's the one that tells the story. And I think you can find some of her interviews on YouTube when she speaks of it. So it's basically a white mom and a black mom sitting together talking about their sons. I think that's how the story goes. And the white mom is saying, oh, my son got a scholarship. He's doing this. He's doing well in school. We're doing this, this, and this. And the black mom is like, oh, that's so nice. And then the white mom says to the black mom, well, isn't your son doing well? You know, I heard he got accepted to this school and he's doing this, this, and this. And the black mom says, No, he's not doing all that. He's just okay. He's not as good as your child or your son, but the way it comes from an origin of back in slavery where the master would sell the children that showed the most promise and that were strong and they could be used as breeders. So of course, tell the master, no, he isn't good. He's shiftless, he's lazy, he's this and that. You can sell him, get somebody else child sold or whatever. So it's a way of protecting your kids, right? You denigrate them in order to
now
keep
that
them.
right there is crazy in my head. That is making my head hurt so badly because I never would have thought that was the origin of that. I mean, I never would have thought that was the real origin. I knew it wasn't right, but I would never have guessed that was the origin. And so to me, what makes me even my head hurt more is how much more we don't know. I mean, it's a lot that they don't know and how much more we don't know. And then for you to study the Holocaust and find out how much they know, and again, how much we don't know. I mean, you're just really blowing my mind with so much. And I'm so grateful you're on the show. And I'm so grateful you went back and put yourself to school. And I'm so grateful you're a Black therapist. And I'm so grateful that you're saying that we don't have enough Black therapists, because when people are out there looking for their therapist and they're wondering why they can't find either one or they can't find the right one. So they might go to a therapist that is a good therapist, but has no idea about the trauma that has gone through these 400 years. I mean, that's blowing my mind that you would say that and you don't even know where it's coming from. It's coming from.
Exactly. And for the Jewish Holocaust, always remember, they do not forget what happened when they were persecuted in Germany, but they tell us to forget slavery.
Right. And
we need to remember where we came from so it don't repeat itself.
I wrote down on my sheet of paper to ask you about the fact that the secrets, when we were talking about Tulsa last week, and that was only 100 years ago, and everybody kept it a secret because of, and I can't even imagine the trauma that's there and the trauma, the freedom from the education of the Holocaust understand, and the lack of freedom that we experience because we don't understand. And there's no conversation. And there's no one in the history books talking about it. You hear a lot about the Holocaust, but you don't hear about the depth of the slavery for so long, so deep, so wide, so recent. And we wonder why we're struggling with self-worth, because you said it, self-worth.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, we could see it. We're like, 40% of the prison population, where the kids are more likely to be expelled or suspended from schools. With a white child, depression looks like irritability. And a Black child, they call it disruptive behavior. But it's the same behavior, but it's just looking at it through a different lens.
Jerry, I'm quoting you twice
we
yesterday.
have to just keep talking about it.
This is a quote from you that I wrote down. When I said about the secrets of the family, Gloria just was bringing that up. You said you are as sick as your secrets. That rocked my world. You are as sick as your secrets. And we're definitely gonna talk about solutions. What are some solutions? How do we get this? I love when you said that I am a trauma interrupter. I mean, that is just so good. I'm going to pass it to Chris because she's been reading an amazing book. And I know you wanted to bring that up.
Yes. And you know what? I mean, it's amazing how sometimes, you'll read something and it has something to do with the show. And I was reading a book by Dr. Yolanda Pierce. She's the Dean of Divinity at Howard University. And she wrote, her newest book is called In My Grandmother's House. And she tells this story about she was headed to work, and it was on a day where it was raining very, very hard. And she saw this Caucasian woman out in the rain. She said nobody was out in the rain. It was just pouring really, really hard. And so she thought to herself, as a Christian, as a minister, and she had just taught on the Good Samaritan, should she go and offer this lady and her baby a ride? And I thought it was just so interesting what she said. She said this: but I'm a Black woman in America whose life and experiences are a product of a complicated racial history. The woman on the side of the road pushing her baby stroller in the torrential downpour was white. While at the light, I thought 1,000 different thoughts. None of them in that moment had anything to do with my own personal safety. I didn't wonder whether this woman was a murderer or a thief. I didn't speculate whether she had a bomb in her stroller instead of a baby. What I was most concerned about was whether I would be perceived as a threat, whether I would be the object of her fear. Would this woman, a stranger to me, be afraid of a Black woman pulling up beside her and asking if she needed a ride? And what would she do out of that fear? The pervasiveness of racism in this moment means that I have been taught all my life to put white comfort ahead of even my own safety. Will she be afraid of me? Was my first thought, long before I wondered whether I would be afraid of her. That right there was so powerful. When I read that, she said she wanted to help, but 1,000 things ran through her mind as to whether or not, and she goes on to say that that is a daily situation that Black people have to go through that white people never have to consider.
That's right. That is very deep. That's deep. Yeah, because we always have to wonder how we're going to show up in the space, and that's something we have to carry every single day, and we all have to be mindful of that. That's a lot. It's too heavy sometimes. It's too much, and how do we put it down? And can we put it down?
It is no secret that my girlfriends, myself, my girlfriends have amazing children that are amazingly accomplished in the world today. I grew up in a wonderful middle-class family, and yet I can still see trauma. I can still see it. And I know it might not be as deep as in other situations, but maybe I'm just sitting here and thinking and processing and thinking about all the things that have taken place in my life that even are in the subconscious and taking place. How do you, talking about solutions, how do you figure out if you need this type of therapy? Where do you go for it? And what happens for folks that can't afford it, which is the situation for most people in our communities?
Yeah, that's a big one because therapy ain't cheap. When I was in therapy, I'm like, well, dang, if I have it's like therapy or pay a car note, or therapy or help offset your mortgage.
That's
you're
right.
you're gonna take
Pay
care
the
of your
bills.
basic
Pay the bills.
But also we need to know that our minds are basic necessities. Without our minds, we're nothing. And we have to take care of it. So if we get like I know it's things like Black girls therapy, there's a recent thing that's been talking about like Black barbershops and beauty salons. Those are ways to get therapy in a way. It allows you to vent and to share your experience with other people who look like you. That's healing. I've also saw where there's a Black emotional gym. Okay, what is it called? It's based in Detroit. So there's a stigma behind going to therapy, but people will go to the gym. And this is a gym that you go to exercise your emotional brain. I can't find the article right now, but there's these emotional gyms that's popping up that will help you practice mindfulness, talk about your emotions, share your feelings. When you don't name your feeling or share your emotion, that's a liberating experience as well. There's a app called Liberate. It's a series of meditations and mindfulness that you can listen to every day, because we need to pour into ourselves because our cups keep getting depleted. So that's a way to like get help. Also, forming like a group therapy, maybe at your church, a support group where a therapist leads a group instead of that one-on-one. Some people need one-on-one. I'm not saying that, but just to find where a therapist is willing to give a sliding scale fee. I just recently finished EMDR training with a group called MEND. What we're going to do is when we sign up for the low-cost training, we have to provide pro bono therapy service for up to a year for two people. So a lot of therapists are doing that. They're going to be providing free therapy. You just have to find one of those therapists that will do that type of therapy. And because it's in our body, we're learning more somatic things that we need to do instead of just talking it through. So if it's trapped in your body, you need to wake it up and get out of there. So dance, drumming, anything physical will help release trauma from your body. And there's a thing called eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It's a way to take stuff from one side of the brain and weave it back and forth. And that'll end up with healing as well for trauma. And it's shown a lot of success in war veterans. And so now as more Black therapists are learning this technique, you like sit over to the side and you do this and you follow the fingers and you're processing the memory. The pain doesn't go away, but you're able to do with the memory without the pain.
Wow.
So you're
What
taking
is that technique called? Geraldine, what is that technique called?
It's called EMDR.
I'm a YouTube it. Try to learn how to do it.
EMDR. Prince Harry just did it for his anxiety. So, Prince Harry. He's into mental health now. So he's been suffering from anxiety for years. So he actually went to an EMDR therapist to get help.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow. We're going to go to a caller. This is some practical, good advice that we all can use. We're all going to be on YouTube. We are about to go to a caller. We're going to go to Mary on the line. I hope that you are still there, Mary. Thanks for calling in to We Got Issues. And we want to
hear your comment or your issue. I do not know which host stated this, but whenever something happened in the news, and if it's something traumatic, we want to know whether or not a Black person did it. And I was just thinking, just a couple of weeks ago, I said the same thing to my aunt, like something horrific happened, and I was like, wow, I wonder if this person was Black. And so her response, when she really became defensive, like, what difference does it make, a life was taken, whether it was Black or white or whatever, a life was taken. But as a Black person, we connect sometimes, even though we know that we will never see this person, we're not in our family, it's just that it's a reflection. You just feel like it's a reflection of the race. And you do not want to appear to be that type of, my favorite word, a barbarian, that you could just go into a school and murder innocent people. And so that's how I felt when I heard you say that. I was like, whenever something horrific happened, my first thing was, I'm sure this person was not Black. Right. It's a collective thing. I think we all think that. And Chris hit the nail on the head, because I know that it's not a conversation in Black families. That is so good, Mary. You brought that. So has this been a helpful conversation for you, just in terms of seeing, understanding this common experience and how it's caused some trauma in our lives? Yes, and each time she thinks, I'm like, wow, she's so on target. The therapist, she's like so on target with all the things, in terms of how you feel and think. Even reflecting back to things happen as a child. So yes, it's very interesting, and I think she's so on target with all that she's stating.
Yes. I think that Jerry is not with us on Facebook, but are you still there, Jerry? Are you still on the phone? On the phone lines, I think.
Yeah, it
dropped. Okay.
It's a kid on me. Can you hear me?
That's okay. Yes, we'll patch your audio in. We'll patch your audio in this way. Someone in the Facebook chat, Kathy, I don't know if I'm saying it incorrectly. Kathy McKinney said, "What about those who are scared to get therapy? What about those that are scared to get therapy?"
Excellent question. Excellent.
Can you answer that question, Jerry?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, got it.
Oh, okay. So you're saying, what if you're scared to get therapy?
Yes. What do you say to those that are scared? Especially a lot of there's a stigma around it.
It is a stigma because a lot of times when you say therapy or therapist, it means you're crazy. You're talking to a light, you're doing all kind of things that's not appropriate. But going to a therapist, it's like taking your car in for a tune-up. It's like, you need to get your oil changed. You got to get your tire rotated. All it is going in, getting a little tune-up for the brain. That's all. And sometimes we just need to talk to somebody. So just like you go to the doctor for diabetes or, breathing, your mind is just as valuable, your brain is just as valuable as your body. So you want to take care of everything because we are one whole system. Body, mind, and spirit. So you want to take care of your mind and your spirit. And however way we do it, even when people say, well, just go to church and Jesus is all you need. Jesus is what people need, but sometimes he puts people in our lives to help.
Absolutely.
Healing ways to put somebody in your life that can help you process the pain.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you so much for being on We Got Issues. We gotta go. This was amazing. Jerry, you can go to our Force of Friendship Facebook page, and you can find, if you're in California, how you can reach Jerry. And be sure, no matter where you are, that you reach out and seek a therapist if you have that need. Thank you for listening. We will see you and hear you tomorrow. Thanks for being on here. And for 1 second. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
That was really, she dropped some bombshells. She dropped some bombshells. Yes.
Yeah.
It was like,
That was
wow.
I'm so glad Jerry lasted till the end.
Right.
We appreciate you guys for being on and tuning into the show tomorrow. I can't believe the week has gone by like that, but we've been on race all week. This has been really, really good, and we're glad we got issues.
We're glad we're here. We're glad y'all are here with us. Talk to you later. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.